Why does it smell so warm? The alien princess's voice trembled, thin as silver glass. Her name was Lira, daughter of King Thalan of the Azure Crown, ruler of the distant world Virellis, a kingdom of beauty suspended in frost-blue skies. Her violet eyes shimmered in the candlelight as she leaned forward, trying to understand the faint aroma drifting through the corridor, something foreign, soft and inexplicably human. At the other end of the royal hall, a single man stood before the throne, Eli, a human engineer brought from Earth to repair the king's failing gravity engines. He was young, modest, with hands rough from labor and a face too gentle for a war-scarred galaxy. The alien court stared at him like he was an insect who had wandered into a temple. Lyra's question cut through the murmurs. "What is this scent?" Eli hesitated, clutching the small metal container in his hand. Steam curled from it in graceful wisps. "It's food," he said quietly. "Bread, I baked it." The word bread meant nothing to them, but the sound of it, the soft consonant, the pause between syllables, seemed to stir something ancient. The king's expression hardened. "Human sustenance has no place in my court. You are here for engines, not appetites." Eli bowed his head, his voice steady despite the tremor in his fingers. "With respect, Your Majesty, your daughter hasn't eaten in 3 days." The court gasped. Lyra's pale lips parted slightly. The truth was a wound she'd hidden. Every alien physician had failed. The foreign fruits of her world now turned bitter in her mouth. She was hungry, not for food but for something she could not name. A silence deeper than space filled the chamber. The king rose from his crystalline throne, his robe glittering like frozen flame. "Explain yourself, human." Eli took a step forward, the faint hum of his translator collar echoing. "I've studied your nutrition systems. Her body rejects synthetics, maybe. Maybe she needs something alive. Something simple, something made by hand." His words hung in the air heavy with both arrogance and hope. Lyra's gaze locked with his. For a moment all the noise faded. The scent of warm bread drifted between them like a promise. She whispered, "Let me try it." The court erupted in protest, but her father raised a trembling hand. He had seen his daughter fading with every sunrise. Desperation, sharper than pride, pierced his heart. Eli approached slowly, setting the bread before her. The golden crust shimmered faintly under the alien light. He broke off a small piece and offered it, his hand steady yet humble. Lira lifted it to her lips. The first bite was silence. Then came the warmth. A surge of memory, not hers but ancient and human, filled her veins. The taste was life, sunlight, laughter, and rain all at once. She gasped, a tear breaking free from her violet eye. The king took a step back, stunned. The palace sensors flared green. Her vitals spiked to stable. Eli exhaled softly. "It's just bread," he murmured. "On Earth we share it to say, you're not alone." Lyra's voice wavered, fragile but alive. "Then I'm not alone anymore." The great hall remained frozen. Every alien noble struck speechless by what they had just witnessed. The dying princess revived by something as humble as human kindness. Yet behind the awe lingered danger. In saving her, Eli had broken an unspoken law. No alien royalty was to consume food made by human hands. And above them, in the shadows of the vaulted ceiling, unseen eyes watched. The eyes of the king's advisor, who whispered quietly into his comlink, "The human has changed her physiology. If the bond deepens, the throne itself may shift." Lyra's heart beat faster. She did not yet know it, but the first taste of bread had already rewritten her destiny. And somewhere deep within the palace machinery, a warning light blinked red. Countdown initiated. "Do you understand what you've done, human?" King Thalan's voice rumbled through the crystal chamber like thunder through hollow stone. Every word carried centuries of rule, cold and heavy with restrained rage. Eli stood still before the throne, his hands at his sides. The scent of bread still lingered in the air, a quiet defiance against the sterile chill of the palace. Lira sat to the side, her posture frail, but her eyes alive again. Color had returned to her skin, faint warmth blossoming under her pale blue tones. She looked between her father and the human, her voice trembling. "Father, he saved me." But the king's stare didn't soften. "He tampered with royal blood," the courtiers murmured, scales and silks rustling like serpents. None had ever dared touch a royal meal, let alone craft it. Human food was considered primitive, too raw, too emotional, too alive. Eli met the king's gaze, steady yet respectful. "I didn't mean offense, your majesty. I only saw your daughter suffering, and you thought to cure her with earth dust?" The king's voice dripped with disbelief. "Flour," Eli corrected softly, a hint of a smile flickering and dying at his lips. "It's made from grain. It's simple, but it feeds more than the body." Lyra's fingers twitched as if to reach toward him, but she stopped herself. There were too many eyes, too much danger. The king's advisor, Moro, leaned close to the throne, his voice a whisper. "Your Majesty, her vitals show a shift in molecular rhythm." "The human compound could be changing her? Changing her?" the king repeated. His tone faltered, not anger now, but fear. Lira rose weakly. "Father, please. I feel alive, for the first time since the fever." Moro turned toward her, his pale metallic irises narrowing. "Princess, with respect, this could be contamination. Your body rejects alien matter now. The process may already be irreversible." The room fell silent. Eli felt a chill crawl up his spine. He looked at Lira. Her eyes glowed faintly now, softer, warmer, like the hue of dawn on frost. "I'm not contaminated," she whispered. "I'm changing." Outside, beyond the palace's transparent dome, twin moons drifted across the turquoise sky. Distant storms painted slow spirals over the frozen clouds. Within, the tension was suffocating. The king finally turned to Eli. "You are confined to the lower quarters until the council decides your fate." Lyra's breath caught. "No, you can't." Thalen's voice cut through hers. "Silence, daughter. I will not risk your life or my throne for a human experiment." Guards approached. Eli didn't resist. He only bowed deeply, his eyes lingering on Lyra's. "It was never meant as defiance, princess. Only care." She tried to speak again, but her throat tightened. Something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that words couldn't touch. As Eli was escorted away, Lyra's vision blurred. The echo of his steps seemed to follow her heartbeat. That night, the palace dimmed early. Wind hissed through the upper vents, a whisper like breathing. Lira sat alone on her balcony, the half-eaten piece of bread beside her, now cooled to silence. When she bit again, the flavor was softer, different. Her eyes widened. It tasted not just of warmth, but of memory. A fleeting vision flashed behind her eyes, Eli's small kitchen on earth, laughter, someone humming while kneading dough. It wasn't her memory. Yet somehow, she felt it. Her hand trembled. "What are you doing to me, human?" she murmured. In the corridors below, Eli stared at the cell's pale light, whispering to himself. "If she's connected to me through the bread, then she might hear me." He closed his eyes, thinking of her, picturing her face, the color of her eyes, and miles above, Lira flinched, hearing a whisper she could not explain. "Don't be afraid, princess," the echo said faintly. She pressed her hands to her chest, breath trembling. "I'm not," she whispered into the wind. "Not anymore." From the shadows, Moro watched the royal monitors flicker. Neural resonance, unexplainable, impossible, appeared between two dots, the human and the princess. He leaned closer to the holographic feed, his voice low and venomous. "So it's true. The human's essence is rewriting her blood." He turned toward the palace gates, eyes glinting like steel. Then the human must not live to see dawn. The next morning, the palace corridors were filled with an eerie stillness. Even the servants moved cautiously, their steps muffled on the polished crystal floors. Lira walked slowly to the central atrium, her violet eyes scanning the glowing fountains that floated mid-air. The warmth of the bread from yesterday still lingered, a phantom taste in her mouth, and with it, an unshakable memory of a human kindness she could not name. King Thalen's voice thundered from above. "Princess Lira, remain in your quarters." "I cannot," she whispered to herself. "I cannot stay idle when he—" Her fingers clenched the railing. She did not yet understand why her heart raced at the thought of Eli, but she felt a connection, strange and deep, as if some invisible thread tied them together across worlds. Eli, meanwhile, had been confined to the lower laboratories. His tools stripped away and the faint hum of machinery became his only companion. He sat on the cold metal floor staring at the dim ceiling. "I can't leave her like this," he muttered. "Her body, her mind. They're adapting to me, but she won't understand until she sees me again." He began to experiment in silence, trying to replicate a simple formula of human nourishment using alien ingredients. A small fire flickered in the corner of the lab, casting shadows that danced like spirits over the walls. Every stir of the mixture sent a faint scent upward, a whisper of bread, of home, of earth. Lira wandered into the palace library, her steps echoing. She picked up a holographic tome on ancient foods of her people, but her mind was elsewhere. Bread, warmth, human. The words seemed inadequate, empty. Her eyes fell on a scroll tucked behind the shelf, depicting the old ways, rituals of royal sustenance that had been abandoned for centuries. She read silently, lips barely moving. Each line was a reminder of her father's pride and the expectations crushing her fragile body. And yet the bread's memory lingered in her mind, a pulse in her veins, stronger than any ritual could offer. Suddenly, a soft vibration ran through the palace walls, a warning tone only audible to the royal monitors. Moro appeared silently in the library doorway, his cloak flowing like liquid shadows. "Princess," he said, his voice gentle but laced with steel, "you are treading dangerous waters. That human, his presence is corrupting your essence." Lira turned slowly, her violet eyes locking with his metallic gaze. "Corrupting?" she whispered, defiance flaring despite her frailty. "I feel alive for the first time in years." "How can you call this corruption?" Moro's lips curled in a thin smile. "Because you cannot yet comprehend the consequences. Human life is fleeting, fragile, and yet you are tied to it. If your bond strengthens, your fate, your throne will no longer belong to you alone." Fear prickled at the edges of her mind. But beneath it, something stronger bloomed. Curiosity, wonder, even a faint thrill. "Then perhaps," she said softly, "it is a risk I am willing to take." Below, Eli's concoction simmered, releasing tendrils of scent that rose like invisible threads toward the upper chambers. For a moment, the palace air vibrated faintly and Lyra's breath caught. Was that? She closed her eyes and felt a warmth, faint, comforting, undeniably human, wrap around her chest. Her fingers tingled. Somewhere in the lower labs, Eli paused, sensing a resonance that should have been impossible. His heart leapt. "The bond is forming," he whispered to himself. But shadows loomed. Moro's plan was already unfolding. Guards patrolled the lower corridors, whispers of a secret order moving unseen. Eli's life and the fragile hope of Lyra's awakening were hanging by the thinnest of threads. Lira stood by the atrium's edge, gazing at the rising suns over the distant crystal mountains. She clenched her hands, feeling the bond thrumming faintly through her blood, warming her alien blue skin. She whispered to the wind, "I don't know you, yet I feel you." And somewhere below, Eli whispered back into the void, unaware that her words had reached him, carrying across worlds and species, "I will not let them take you away." The palace was alive with tension. Every breath could be a betrayal, every heartbeat a warning. And somewhere in the shadowed corridors, Moro watched, calculating. The bond had begun, unstoppable and invisible, but would it survive the storm that was coming? The palace was quiet, but the silence was heavy, pressing against Lyra's chest like a weight she could not shrug off. She moved through the crystal corridors, each step echoing like a drumbeat of warning. The warmth of the bread lingered faintly in her memory, a constant reminder of the human who had dared to defy her father's will. From the shadows, Moro's presence was everywhere. The king's advisor had been observing her, noting every twitch of emotion, every pulse of warmth in her alien veins. "She's bonded," he muttered to himself, his eyes glinting in the dim light. "And if the bond strengthens, the throne itself may be at risk." Lira paused at the entrance of the observation deck overlooking the frozen expanse of Virellis. Twin moons hovered above jagged mountains, their reflections dancing on the ice below. The wind whispered through the gaps in the dome, carrying with it a hint of something foreign, something alive. Her fingers brushed the rail as her thoughts drifted to Eli. Could a human truly understand her? Could he even survive this world? Every instinct screamed caution, but something deeper, curiosity, trust, perhaps even hope, pulled her toward the forbidden. Below, Eli worked silently, his hands moving with careful precision. The makeshift laboratory was cluttered with alien ingredients, wires, and glowing vials. He adjusted the temperature of a small container, listening intently to the faint hum that seemed to respond to Lyra's presence above. He whispered softly, "I can reach you. I just need time." Somewhere in the palace, Moro was moving like a shadow. He tapped the comlink at his wrist. "The human must not leave the lower quarters. If the bond deepens, we cannot control it." A group of guards nodded, their armor reflecting the faint light of the chamber. "What if the princess seeks him?" one asked. Moro's eyes glinted. "Then intercept her before she touches him." "Nothing else matters." Lyra's heartbeat quickened. She had felt a pull stronger than gravity, guiding her down winding corridors, past guards, past silent observers. She could sense Eli's presence, faint but unmistakable, a pulse of life, warmth, and hope. The palace seemed alive, watching, waiting. Every corner held potential betrayal, every shadow a trap. Yet Lira moved with a quiet determination, guided by an invisible thread she could not explain. In the lower labs, Eli sensed movement above. The hum of the machinery shifted, responding to her proximity. He froze, eyes scanning the room. "She's coming," he whispered. The doors opened slowly and Lira stepped inside, her alien skin glowing faintly under the laboratory lights. Her violet eyes locked with Eli's, and for a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly, worry lacing his tone. "I had to," she replied, her voice trembling but resolute. "I can feel you, and I don't understand it, but I need to know." Before he could respond, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the walls. Moro's voice crackled through the comlink. "Intrusion! The princess has breached the lower sectors." Eli's heart pounded. "Stay calm. We'll find a way." Lyra's hands trembled as she stepped closer to him, the invisible bond between them pulsing like a living thing. What is happening to me?" Eli reached out gently. "It's the connection, the bond. It's responding to both of us. It's alive." The doors banged open. Guards flooded the lab, weapons raised. Lira and Eli stood together, the warmth of the bond between them a shield against fear. She drew a deep breath, violet eyes blazing. "I will not let them take him." Eli's eyes met hers, understanding passing in silence. "Then we fight together." Moro's shadow loomed closer, calculating, patient. The storm was arriving, and the bond between human and princess, once a fragile spark, was about to ignite a fire that could change the fate of Virellis forever. The alarm still rang through the palace, a shrill chorus of warning that rattled the walls. Red light painted every surface, casting long, jagged shadows across the crystal floors. Lira clutched Eli's hand tightly, the warmth of his grip anchoring her as they moved through the corridors. Every step was a gamble, guards around every corner, sensors tracking even the faintest motion. Eli whispered, "We need to reach the transport chamber." "It's the only way out." Lira nodded, her violet eyes scanning the surroundings. Despite her fear, she felt an unfamiliar surge of strength coursing through her veins. The bread, the simple human bread that had awakened her, had left more than memory. It had left something alive within her, something that pulsed in resonance with Eli's presence. The palace corridors twisted and spiraled like a labyrinth, their crystalline walls reflecting their own shadows as if mocking them. From above, Moro's voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Stop them. No human shall leave with the princess." They ran, feet pounding on the icy floors. Lyra's pulse was a drumbeat of urgency, her breath coming in quick bursts, but every step strengthened the strange, invisible thread tying her to Eli. She could feel his heartbeat, his steady determination, his unwavering resolve, and it gave her courage. Around them, guards moved like phantoms, their armor clinking softly, weapons raised. But every time one approached, Lira felt the bond pulse, a protective warmth that seemed to guide her. She didn't understand it, but she trusted it, trusting Eli, trusting herself, trusting the life that had suddenly awakened within her. They turned a sharp corner, and the palace opened into the grand atrium. Twin moons shone through the massive glass dome, scattering light across the frozen spires below. It should have been beautiful, but there was no time for admiration. The transport chamber lay at the far end, guarded by an elite squad. Eli whispered urgently, "We can't fight them head-on. We need to be clever. Follow me." He led her through a side passage barely wide enough for them to squeeze through, the walls humming faintly under the stress of the alarms. Lyra's skin tingled, the resonance pulsing like electricity guiding them through the maze. Your bond, it's more than emotional, Eli said quietly, almost to himself. It's reactive. It's protecting you, Lyra's eyes widened. Reactive? You mean like magic? He shook his head. Not magic. Connection. Something beyond science, but not beyond understanding. The side corridor opened near the transport chamber. The guards had formed a blockade, but their movements were sluggish, their perception dulled. Lyra's pulse surged, and without thinking, she moved forward. A sudden, invisible wave of warmth radiated from her, knocking the nearest guards off balance. Eli stared in disbelief. It's responding to you. Lyra took a deep breath, violet eyes blazing. Then we use it. Hand in hand, they rushed the blockade. The bond pulsed, a force neither could fully control, and the guards were pushed aside as if by an invisible tide. Weapons clattered to the floor. Confusion spread across the elite squad, but Moro had anticipated their escape. From the shadows he emerged, his cloak flowing like liquid night. You cannot flee, princess. You belong here. Lyra stood firm, her fingers tightening around Eli's. I belong wherever I choose, she said, her voice steady and unafraid. Eli whispered, Ready? She nodded. Together they sprinted into the transport chamber. The console lit up, humming with dormant power. Lyra touched it lightly, guided by the bond, and the engines roared to life. The chamber lifted, vibrating as it soared through the palace. Red alarms blared behind them, and Moro's scream echoed in the halls. The twin moons disappeared beneath the rising sun as they broke through the dome, Virellis sprawling endlessly beneath them. Lyra leaned on Eli, her body trembling, not from fear but from exhilaration. She had survived, but more than that, she had discovered a part of herself she never knew existed. Eli glanced at her, a small smile forming despite the adrenaline. We're not safe yet, he said, but we're alive, and you're more than anyone imagined. Lyra's violet eyes glistened with tears and determination, and I'll follow this bond wherever it leads. Above them, the skies stretched vast and unknown, and below, the palace of Virellis burned red with fury. The transport chamber hummed steadily as it cut through the thin, icy air above Virellis. Below, jagged crystal mountains glinted in the light of the twin suns, their brilliance blinding against the frost. Lyra pressed her hand against the glass, watching the alien landscape blur beneath them, a strange mixture of beauty and danger. Every peak and valley held a threat, but also the promise of freedom. Eli worked the controls with precision, his eyes never leaving the console. The bond between them pulsed faintly through the cabin, a living thread that seemed to respond to their movements, guiding the chamber with uncanny accuracy. Hold tight, he whispered. We're not out of danger yet. Lyra's violet eyes met his, and for a moment the panic and adrenaline melted into quiet trust. I can feel you, she said softly. Even across everything. It's mutual, Eli replied, squeezing her hand. Whatever this is, it's more than I imagined. It's alive. The chamber's walls vibrated, responding to the invisible force between them. It was as if the bond had grown stronger, reacting to the altitude, the wind, and the tension in the air. Lyra could feel it pulsing through her veins, a warmth she hadn't known she was missing, a steady presence that anchored her even as the world outside seemed hostile and infinite. Below, the palace had dispatched drones, sleek metallic creatures designed to hunt intruders with precision. Their red eyes glinted as they accelerated toward the chamber. Lyra's breath caught. Eli, they're following us. Eli's hands moved deftly across the controls, evading the first swarm. Stay calm, trust me. And trust this bond. Lyra nodded, her body trembling slightly as she concentrated on the invisible thread connecting them. The warmth pulsed, expanding outward, and for a brief moment the drones faltered, their sensors overwhelmed by the sudden, inexplicable interference. Moro's voice crackled over the comm link from the palace. You cannot escape. The human is nothing but a threat to her. You will return, princess, or face annihilation. Lyra's pulse quickened, but she did not falter. I am not yours to command, she shouted, the resonance of her voice amplified by the bond. The chamber trembled as if answering her declaration, moving faster, sharper, almost guided by her will as much as Eli's hands. Eli's brow furrowed. She's doing it. I think she's controlling it too. Lyra looked at him, awe mingled with determination. I don't know how, but I can. Together, they maneuvered through the frozen expanse, avoiding treacherous ice cliffs and glacial chasms. The alien wind howled around them, but inside the chamber, the bond remained a shield of warmth. Lira leaned closer, her fingers brushing Eli's. "I trust you," she whispered. "And I trust you," he replied. His voice was steady, calm, a grounding presence in the chaos of flight. For a moment, the world outside vanished. The snow, the ice, the drones, they all faded as if the bond had carved a small sanctuary around them. It was only the two of them, linked in ways neither fully understood, moving through a galaxy of unknown dangers with an instinctive synergy. But the danger was not gone. Far below, Moro watched the transport chamber on his monitors, his eyes narrowing. "They are stronger together than I anticipated," he muttered. "If they reach the surface of the outer fields, they may escape my grasp entirely." Lira felt a flicker of fear, but it was tempered by a newfound courage. She had been fragile once, hungry, alone, uncertain. Now she was alive, bonded to a human whose presence reminded her of sunlight and warmth, and she would fight to hold on to that life no matter the cost. The transport chamber descended toward a hidden plateau, the only safe landing in the outer ice fields. Lira pressed closer to Eli, feeling the bond pulse like a heartbeat synchronizing with hers. "Almost there," he murmured. "We just have to hold on a little longer." Above them, the twin moons reflected off the icy cliffs, silent witnesses to the fledgling alliance between human and alien princess, a bond that could change the fate of worlds. The transport chamber touched down lightly on the hidden plateau, the ice beneath groaning softly as if warning them not to linger. Lira stepped out first, her violet eyes scanning the endless expanse of the outer fields. Frosted spires stretched like jagged teeth beneath the twin suns, and the wind bit at her skin, but the warmth of the bond between her and Eli held her steady. Eli followed, adjusting his coat against the cold. "We made it," he said, voice quiet but full of relief. His eyes met hers, and in that moment words were unnecessary. The connection between them pulsed in harmony, a living rhythm neither could fully explain but both could feel. Lira took a deep breath. The alien wind filled her lungs, and she felt alive in a way she never had inside the palace walls. "I've been hungry," she admitted softly, her voice carried faintly by the icy gusts. "Not for food alone, but for something real. For warmth, for connection." Eli stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. "You're not alone anymore, and you never will be." Behind them, the palace shimmered faintly on the horizon, a distant threat looming in the icy haze. Moro had not given up. He would send forces, machines, perhaps even the king himself, to retrieve the princess. But for the first time, Lira did not feel helpless. She had a choice, a companion, and something deeper, a bond that had transformed her from a fragile, starving princess into a living force of resilience. She knelt briefly, touching the snow beneath her feet. The frost burned, but she welcomed the sting. "I am not the same princess who sat in that throne," she whispered. "I am more human, more alive." Eli handed her a small piece of bread he had saved, still warm from the portable oven he carried. Lira took it, smiling faintly, remembering the first time it had revived her. She bit into it, savoring the simple taste of life, and felt a surge of energy course through her veins. The bond pulsed brighter than ever, resonating with the moment, anchoring them to each other. "Your Majesty will not understand this," Eli said quietly, glancing toward the distant palace. "But that doesn't matter anymore. You are free to choose your path." Lira looked at him, tears glistening in her violet eyes. "And I choose this path, with you." For the first time, the icy winds did not feel cold. They wrapped around them like a cloak of protection, carrying the promise of a new beginning. The human and the alien princess stood together on the frozen plateau, the bond between them a living testament to trust, courage, and the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. Moro's monitors flashed in the distance, red alarms indicating the palace's fury, but neither Lira nor Eli flinched. The bond was stronger than fear, stronger than tradition, stronger than any decree the king could issue. "I will help you rebuild," Eli whispered, "if you want, but we do it together. No more isolation, no more hunger, not for your body and not for your heart." Lira smiled, violet eyes reflecting the twin suns. "Then let us begin." As the wind swirled around them, carrying the scent of snow and distant life, the bond pulsed one final time, a radiant rhythm that would forever mark the dawn of a new throne. Not the throne of a distant palace, but a throne forged by courage, compassion, and the extraordinary unity of two souls from different worlds. And somewhere, deep within the palace, King Thalin and Moro would understand eventually that no power in the universe could rival the resilience that humanity had given his daughter. The warmth of connection, the spark of life, and the undeniable magnificence of being saved by a human heart. The horizon glowed faintly. Twin suns rising over Virellis, the princess and her human companion faced it together, unshackled, unstoppable, and alive.